Today, I'm going to change the way you look at plants forever. We're talking about plants reacting to surgical anesthesia, why succulents and Venus flytraps are actually distant cousins, why strawberries aren't fruits, and more. The first thing we're going to talk about is that plants react to anesthesia the same way humans do. And you may be wondering how somebody tested whether or not a plant fell asleep. Well, Venus flytraps and Mimosa pudica plants both react when touched. If you watched my How Carnivorous Plants Eat video, you already know that flytraps only close their traps when insects land on the trigger hairs inside the trap. And Mimosa pudicas are nicknamed the sensitive plant or touch-me-not plants because the leaves fold up when you touch them. So researchers essentially put these plants in a chamber and filled it inside with diethyl ether, which is what we use on humans for anesthesia. And after a few minutes, these plants completely stopped responding to touch. It didn't matter how many hairs were triggered or how many times you touched the sensitive plant, they didn't move. It actually took about 15 minutes before the effects wore off the plants. Number 2 is that scientists believe plant cells were created when one cell ate another cell. But instead of the cell that was eaten dying, they just kind of fused together. Further evidence to support this is the fact that plants have a double membrane chloroplast. This is believed to have developed from those cells fusing. And this would technically mean that the first plant was a chimera. Number 3 is that oak trees are more closely related to pumpkins than pine trees. Pine trees are a type of gymnosperm, or more specifically, a conifer. This means that they don't flower and they reproduce through male and female cones. The fossil record for pine trees dates back to 390 million years ago. On the other hand, pumpkins and oak trees are both a part of a group of flowering plants called rosids. These reproduce when the ovule or ovaries of the flower are pollinated with, well, pollen, which forms some type of seed. This group can be traced back to 100 million years ago, which is almost 300 million years after pine trees. Number 4 is about one of the most important groups of plants when it comes to the ones we eat, and they are the brassicas, more specifically Brassica oleracea. Through artificial selection and cultivation, we've turned that single species into kale, collard greens, cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, and more. Number 5 is that succulents and Venus flytraps are actually distant cousins. I know it doesn't seem like the spiky desert plant is even remotely similar to an insect-eating bog plant, but they are both in the plant order Carophyllales. And this group is known for having some funky evolutionary traits. Cacti, which are a type of succulent, have modified leaves in the forms of spines. These spines help them survive in their drier environments because they don't need a lot of water to maintain, and they serve as protection from animals that think cacti are a yummy snack. Flytraps also have modified leaves that help them in their environment. Bogs have nutrient-poor soil and are great breeding grounds for insects. Because flytraps don't have nutrients in the soil readily available to them, they evolved to eat bugs for nutrients. Number 6 is that if plants aren't exposed to predators in their area, they will stop creating their defense mechanisms. Although mint is a beloved flavor by humans, it actually wards off a lot of animals. They usually don't like the taste or smell of it. And stinging nettle is a plant that causes a stinging sensation when you touch the hairs on the leaves and stems. In Hawaii, these plants have no natural predators, and both plants have been observed to stop producing these methods of protection. Mint doesn't taste like mint, and stinging nettle doesn't sting. This also leads to some questions about plant consciousness, because how could you stop producing your defense mechanism if you didn't know that predators weren't there anymore? And our last fact is going to change the way you look at the produce section of the grocery store. I think we've all heard at least once by now that tomatoes are a fruit, and this is technically correct. However, Cucumbers, squash, pumpkins, and peppers are also all fruits. Fruits are just seed-bearing structures on flowering plants that form in the ovary. This also means that, botanically speaking, nuts and peas are considered fruits as well. Ironically, apples and strawberries are not fruits. They're actually considered accessory fruits because the tissue that surrounds the seeds wasn't formed in the ovary of the flower. So if almost everything is a fruit or an accessory fruit, what's a vegetable? Vegetable isn't actually a botanical term, but a culinary term that refers to any part of the plant that is edible. This includes roots, such as carrots and potatoes, leaves like kale and cabbage, flowers like broccoli and artichokes, or even fruits like tomatoes and cucumbers. But botanically speaking, vegetables aren't real. I hope you start looking at the produce section of the grocery store a little bit differently after this video. And as always, here's the sneak peek into next week's video. And I hope to see you there.